Perfect. First of all, just wanted to say thank you, Possible, for having us, and thank you everyone for joining the call. I'm sure most of you were probably here for the panel a little bit earlier, so you've probably got to hear a little bit about Arup already, but I've got Ed on the call with me today, who is going to talk through his experience working as a graduate with us at Arup. And then further towards the end of the slides, I'll touch through our application process. So I'll hand over to you, Ed, if you want to kick us off.
Yeah, thanks, Maddie. So who am I? My name's Ed Hayne. I graduated from Monash Uni at the end of 2020. So spent the remainder of my degree during the COVID year, all online. Actually didn't attend campus, I think, for the last nearly 2 years of my degree because I was away on exchange as well. So I did a double of civil engineering and commerce, where I majored in finance. I know that's become a pretty prominent degree at Monash Uni, quite a popular one, for a number of reasons. That was a 5-year degree, which I actually did end up finishing in 5 years. I was lucky that it did end up being the right fit for me. And then throughout 2020, I started applying to an array of different jobs. I'm sure you're all starting that process now, but Arup was, funnily enough, the very first job I applied to. And I didn't get it until about November in 2020, which meant that I applied for about 40 other jobs in between and didn't get any of them. So it was kind of a big loop, and then came back around, and it would have been nice to have it locked away earlier, but the nature of the COVID year meant that everything was uncertain. Got a few hobbies listed there that mainly revolve around sport. That's what keeps me happy and keeps me sane. I love hanging out with my friends and doing team sport. So AFL golf, surfing, bit of travel, and a bit of camping as well. Next slide, please, Maddie. So I thought I'd just dive into a bit of my experience with uni. First of all, I'm just going to take you through how I got to where I am today. So Monash Uni, how I spent my time was trying to hang out on campus a little bit more than usual. I found that getting really close with my peers allowed me to get through uni, and working as a team was exceptionally helpful for problem solving, because that is the nature of engineering, is that throughout your entire career, you're going to be forced into new teams all the time. And without that experience of meeting new people and sitting down and nutting out problems, I never would have those skills that I have today. I did opt to take some lectures at home even before COVID hit. I think that was just a work-life balance thing. And even if I didn't go in for a lecture, I might even go in later that day for a prac class and then just hang around a little bit longer to try and get that extra edge. Project meetings, I think this was something that I sort of underestimated, is making the commitment to meeting with a university team. You sort of think, oh, it's not that important. Let's just meet every fortnight or semi-irregularly. But a tip was sort of just get in a good routine of setting project meetings in person and committing to them, making sure you're giving up the time for everyone else, as that sort of carries through to your professional career. While I was at uni, I was working a few different part-time jobs. The main one was catering at weddings and corporate events with the big group. I did some labouring with my uncle, helping build some temporary stages and dance floors. And then I worked at a promotional products company for just a day a week, actually doing some marketing, which is a bit random considering where I'm at now. But basically that just taught me teamwork and how to work with a variety of different people. I did do a little bit of work experience that's related to my job now, but I'll touch base on that, I think, shortly. In 2019, I went to Denmark Technical University. This was probably the best thing that I ever did in my time in uni. I went over there and I studied engineering only. I didn't do any commerce. That was a conscious decision because that uni was fairly straightforward to get into. They had all the right infrastructure there for me. So yeah, I would highly recommend that. And then next slide, please, Maddie. So my relevant work experience to Arup now is that in the last 2 summers, so 2018 and 2019 summer, I worked for BG&E Consulting. They're another engineering consulting company based in Melbourne. Their head office is actually in Perth, but they've got about 50 or so people in Melbourne, where I just picked up little bits and pieces of work that were fairly straightforward for a student engineer. I did some column rundowns and calculated some pile loads, which might be familiar to any structural engineers listening out there. And then I compared the old and new AS3600 code, so the concrete code for structural engineers, and there was a few key changes that came in 2018, and I was asked to take a closer look at them and present back to the bosses and of what I discovered, which was very good for me in my learning. And then at the end of my exchange in Denmark, I managed to get involved with BGE in London. They were just sort of starting out there. They had about 15 people in the office, and I just asked the question whether I could go over and spend a couple of months. And I was very fortunate to be offered a position of just going there as a vacationer, and got given a little piece of work, which was building a database on all the high-rise buildings that BG&E had designed sort of over the last 15 to 20 years. As it turned out, they're actually very prominent in Dubai. So about 90% of the buildings in that database were from Dubai. As you can see in the image there, we know it's a very high-rise sort of lifestyle. The excess of money has led to some very large buildings being built. I also did a little bit of value engineering. Sorry, Maddie. Yeah, a little bit of value engineering, which is looking at some reinforcement rates. And yeah, that was another piece of work which gets thrown around all the time, where I am just people trying to save money on their projects. So they bring in someone else to take a look at where the savings can be made. Next slide. Now here I am at Arup. Day-to-day life is one that I always wanted to know more and more about when I was at uni, and like it was just all big wild world out there, and I didn't know exactly what people actually did day to day. But what you do at uni is very important. I can assure you that. I'm doing stuff now that I learned in my 3rd year, 4th year of uni, and I'm trying to dig up old university lecture notes every now and then to do calculations here. Other than that, learning lots of new softwares, finite element analysis. So if you're doing space gas or microstrand, that's all particularly relevant. But then, yeah, most importantly is now that I'm here in the office, I'm always collaborating with different people. I've been thrown around to about 4 or 5 different projects now, and then in each project you're working with 3 or 4 new people. So just taking the time in the first couple of weeks of being thrown on a new project to introduce yourself, get to know each other, because you're going to be working together for the next 6 months. So there's a lot of spaces, as you can see in the picture there, for people to just sit down, have a coffee, and learn about each other before getting stuck into work. There's a lot of presentations here at Arup, I think, because it's a fairly substantial company. We get the opportunity to listen in to people coming in from industry or past projects. There's often lunchtime sessions that I'll listen into, super valuable, for learning technical skills, and all about past Arup projects, which has been very valuable for my learning. So I'm still learning heaps, just as much as what I was at uni. The good stuff as well is there's some socials. Didn't really get much of it last year, but now we're having team breakfast, team lunch, people are coming and going. So we're getting together heaps of time, probably 1 a week at the moment. And really, like, it's just all about making a network in the first, I think, couple of years of starting a new company. So that's what I'm working towards. Next slide, please, Maddie. So a couple of the projects that I'm working on, they sort of range from very small. You can see down the bottom left there, that was one of the first jobs I ever did, was designing a single steel beam to support that operable wall that can move in and out. And then moved on to a staircase, something that's slightly a bit bigger and a bit more intricate. And then finally, you can see down the bottom right-hand side there, it's a huge site. That is the State Basketball Centre. which I've been working on for sort of the last 6 months and focusing on design of the pad footing foundations. I worked on another big project, but I can't tell you anything about it because it was completely confidential. So that's something that's also kind of cool, is you can get thrown in on a project, but you're not allowed to talk about it in the office. As basically, that's the world of data centers at the moment. No one wants to know where their data center is or what it looks like. And what I'm doing right now, I'm working on Metro Melbourne, which many more engineers are in Melbourne, Brisbane, Sydney, and Perth, helping the facades team do some secondary steel work, so coming off the concrete soffit. Starting to do some site inspections as well for state basketball as that starts to get built. That'll be coming up for me in the next few months, which I'm very excited about, as I haven't spent much time on site as of yet. Arup's great because we also get opportunity to do some slightly different work rather than just project work all the time. So I've done a little bit of digital that came off the back of the State Basketball Centre project. We had like literally 200 footings, and it was going to be extremely laborious to design every single one by hand. So Arup have this basically thing called design check, where you can jump in C# and do some coding and try and work some magic to make the process more efficient. And then sustainability, exclamation mark. That's what everyone's talking about. Everyone's working towards now. So a lot of Arup funded initiatives are happening. I'm lucky enough to be leading one where we're collaborating with Hanson, who are one of the main concrete suppliers here in Australia. And we're just helping them get their supplementary cementitious material percentages up and reporting the correct embodied carbon values. Next slide, please. Little tips and tricks. I've heard that you've already been told plenty of tips and tricks throughout the fair, so I won't bore you too much more, but I think understanding the role that you're applying for is the most important thing. And then just being able to show your personality in an interview. I guess, you know, the interviewers they know what they're looking for in particular. So don't be afraid to show your colors and, you know, show that there's a little bit more to you than your university studies and your part-time work. Just conscious of time. I think I'm running a little over, but that could be it.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ed. Awesome. I'm just going to briefly just run through a little bit about our graduate development program and also the stages. And yeah, conscious that you have heard similar info from some of the other employers on the call. So I'll run through it as quickly as I can. But basically, at Arup, we offer a 2-year-long graduate development program, and this is for our whole region across Australasia. So we recruit grads for Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, Indonesia, and Malaysia. As part of the 2-year-long graduate development program, there is a whole heap of training and development that goes in as part of that, that's facilitated by our learning and development team. So that covers virtual workshops. We have guest speaker events, as well as online self-paced learning. That is, I guess, a requirement of the program, and for you to satisfy the 2-year-long boxes that you have to tick to be able to roll off from that, as well as heaps of additional resources that you have access to further develop your skills in any areas that may be of interest to you. Similar to some of the other companies on the call, we have a pretty similar recruitment process, except ours is a little bit shorter, I think, in some senses, and hopefully we don't make you jump through too many hoops. But basically, the first stage of the recruitment process is an online application. This year, we will be requiring for you to nominate the office that you are applying for, the area of expertise, and then your area of study. Your resume and academic transcript will also need to be a part of that application, and a cover letter is strongly recommended. From there, candidates that meet the eligibility criteria will be invited to complete our blended abilities test. So basically, this is looking at your ability to adapt to different scenarios, your ability to collaborate with other people, and general reasoning. From there, we'll then shortlist and provide those shortlists to the hiring managers who will conduct interviews over a 2 to 3 week long period, depending on COVID restrictions and what's safe to be done. We'll either be running those interviews over Teams or in person, depending on each office location. And then from there, candidates who are successful will receive a verbal offer from the hiring manager, and then you'll receive a formal contract from our people and culture team. So our applications are currently open. So they opened last Monday, the 7th of March, and they'll be open to until the 3rd of April. So you can access our job ads through Grad Australia or through our graduate careers website. Some important information that is, I guess, required for applying for our graduate roles is just knowing about our different areas of expertise and also the roles that we have available. So this information will be accessible through Grad Australia and through our graduate careers page as well. If you aren't ready to apply for a graduate role, and if you're not graduating at the end of this year, but you do want to join our talent network, we have got a couple of forms built into the website, and we'll get those up on Grad Australia as well, where you can share your expression of interest. Basically, what this will mean is that you'll be signed up to our mailing list, and you'll be contacted when any of our applications open, and then also be notified of any additional roles or any changes that happen throughout the year. Through Grad Australia and through our website as well, we've got the opportunity for you to get to know a little bit more about some of our graduates and what it's like working with us. So feel free to self-navigate through those resources as well to learn a little bit more about what it's like working as a graduate with us at Arup. But before we wrap up, I just thought Ed and I would see if there are any questions that anyone had for either of us. And perhaps, Sam, if you could check the chat if anything's come through.
There looks to be a question about projects in Russia. Is that something Arup currently has on? Probably not, I would say.
Ed, do you know the answer to that question?
Honestly, I've got no idea what's happening in Russia at the moment in regards to our projects. Yeah.
We have received some global communications that have come through to us to give us a bit of an overview and to let us know that they are taking a lot of different factors into consideration. And I guess that there's decision making into what we work with and what we don't work with. So from a global perspective, I'm not too sure, as I don't deal directly with those kinds of projects, but I think we definitely do have a stance on it, and the team is looking at that from a global perspective.
We had a question in here about positions for international students, whether now or in the future. Is that something Arup currently considers at all?
Yeah, good question. Currently at the moment, no, we don't have our applications open for international students. So the eligibility criteria as it stands is that it's a requirement for the 2023 program that you have an Australian citizenship or permanent residency. However, that is something that is under review for this year. So we are looking at expanding the candidates that we are able to consider. So if you are an international student or you don't currently hold a PR or citizenship, what I would recommend is the EOI forms that we have up. You can still input all of your details in there, and feel free to just leave a comment in the comment section to identify that you don't have a PR or citizenship. And when we do look at opening up that eligibility criteria in the future, we'll be reaching out to you, as well as working with our stakeholders to making sure that we're engaging with the wider network if we have the opportunity to do so.
Final question here before I pass on. There's just one quick question about mature age students. Is that something that Arup will consider for your grad program or other opportunities potentially as well?
Yeah, definitely. There's no restriction on age. I don't even think that that's something that we even really look for in our platform. It's more so we look at make sure you meet the eligibility criteria and that you are a recent graduate. So you do need to have completed your studies within the last 3 to 4 years. Anything further than that, we would probably be looking at your experience and seeing if you're a good fit for a more experienced higher role. But for the graduate development program, yeah, we don't, I guess, look at age as a factor in that at all, as long as you meet that criteria. If you're a good fit for the team and you're eager to get hands-on and join us, then that's all we really look for.
I might add to that, Maddie, as well. There was a mature grad in my year as well. Or I think there was 2, and we all got along. It doesn't really matter. There's plenty of room for mature students. There's also another person who's a bit more senior than I am now, who came across from biochemistry and is now a structural engineer, and one of the better ones too. So career changes are most welcome.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Maddie. Thanks, Ed. I might take back now, and let me just stop the screen sharing as well. And yeah, I'd like to just thank you once again, Ed, for your time today. Team at Arup for your presentation early as well on the panel.